And now, Russell Stannard, the floor is yours.
Okay, lovely to see you all. Nice to hear the French, but je parle français aussi, but today I'm going to do the presentation in English. I don't speak French as well as I do English. I'm actually learning Polish at the moment. Today, I promise, is super practical. I'm going to give you some really useful technologies, some ideas, some thoughts about language teaching and using technology. I really hope you find them useful, and they're based on, as you'll see, the teachers that give me feedback. Can I make one suggestion before I start? I know you're all connected with your cameras. I'm going to be screen sharing and showing you some technologies, and actually when we've got the cameras on, it can slow down the experience. Can I suggest, just while I do the presentation, and it's a good tip whenever you've got lots of people, obviously when you've only got a few it doesn't matter, but it will mean the session will run a little bit better. And I promise you another thing very important just before we start. Everything I show you today, I've prepared a handout for you with videos that show you exactly how to use the technologies that we're going to present today, okay? And the ideas that we're going to present. So I'm going to click over now to my screen sharing, and I'm going to click to make sure we turn on the sound. I'm going to click on now screen, which should allow me now to share my screen, hopefully. Let's just have a quick look here. Okay, lovely. And we should now all be seeing my screen. Lovely to be part of this presentation today. And as I said, I'm going to try my very best to make this a super practical session and as useful as possible to you. So just really quickly, just because I think it is important for me to tell you, I am a language teacher. I've been a language teacher since 1987. My first job was in Seville. I was Director of Studies of International House in Seville for 9 years. And I even wrote some materials for various publishers, mainly for Macmillan. And I've got a lot of respect for course book writers because I could never write a course book, but I wrote lots of photocopyable games for learning languages, and I also wrote a few teachers, in fact, a lot of teachers' books. I then became a teacher trainer at the University of Westminster, University of Warwick, and University of King's College, where I trained teachers in educational technology and language education. And I started a website called teachertrainingvideos.com. The whole emphasis of the website is to help teachers who might be a little bit like me, a little bit technophobic, a little bit reticent about technology, to help them to basically incorporate technology into their language teaching. And slowly the website and the YouTube channel got more and more popular till I got to the point where I could just work freelance, which is what I do now. So I still teach on a few master's degree programs. And I am actually a language learner. I'm living in Poland, learning Polish at the moment. And basically what I do these days is spend most of my life looking at all these AI technologies. In fact, not just AI technologies, but generally technologies that we can use in our teaching and learning, testing them, because I have lots of groups that I work with, teachers and even some students. And then I kind of make videos that I put onto my YouTube channel about the most popular. And that YouTube channel has about 97,000. So what I wanted to do today was to kind of focus on three key areas. And I think obviously there's a lot of interest and a lot of skepticism, concern about AI, and I totally agree. I kind of find myself in the middle. I can see the benefits of it, but I also worry about a lot of concerns around things like security and stuff. I'm not going to be focusing on the types of technologies where we need to concern too much about that, but where I really want to focus on today is three key areas. So from my 96,000 odd subscribers on YouTube, I have 10,000 people on the newsletter. And I also have a Patreon group where I get lots of feedback, and there's about 90 paying members on Patreon. And I asked them, where are the key areas for using AI? And the three areas that they identified for me, saying, well, these are the areas that we're using technology in our language teaching, are generating materials, making sessions either in class or online, or even as part of the homework, more interactive, and also autonomous learning, which particularly for me is interesting because I'm living in Poland. I'm learning Polish, which is an incredibly difficult language, and I can't believe how different my learning experience is to when I studied French and when I studied Spanish because of technology. It really is incredible how differently my learning experience is. And you'll see that today in the technologies that I've chosen for you. So I was really kind of, obviously there's a number of very interesting technologies around. And I think a lot of us in our teaching and learning, we use YouTube. And there have been recently a number of technologies that support YouTube that are particularly interesting. And one was released about 6 months ago, and it's called Gaston. And I particularly like Gaston, and I'm going to demo it to you, but I want to just start to tell you why. If you're a teacher or a student as well, so if you're studying languages yourself and you like to use YouTube videos, then Gaston's absolutely brilliant because it will extract the transcript from the voice. So the transcriptions are very accurate. It will allow you with a click of a button to translate that transcription. It will allow you to copy any of the text or any of the transcript for checking. It makes the transcript searchable. So if you want to look for a particular phrase or word and you want to see examples in the transcript of that word being used or that phrase being used, you can do that. You can copy, you can highlight, you can mark anything. But incredibly, and this is what makes Gaston so special, it actually has ChatGPT embedded into the system. So you can take a YouTube video that you want to use with your students, extract the transcript, and then just by clicking on the button, the AI button that's within the system, it will generate for you, for example, I don't know if you want a summary or you want multiple choice questions or you want true or false questions, or you want to extract the key vocabulary or the key phrases or make a gap fill activity or make a matching activity. You can do that all in one system. I absolutely love this technology. There are a number of these around, but this is probably the best one that I've seen. And I want to start with this because I think many teachers use YouTube in their teaching and learning, and you're going to see how effective this technology is. I'm going to click on the button. Hopefully we're all right with listening to audio. There should be any problems. If anyone can't hear, then someone in the background just let me know. But I'm presuming that we should be all right to. So the website is called gaston.live, but don't forget I will be giving you all the information in the handout. And the incredible thing about Gaston Live is that it will generate for you the transcript from any YouTube video. Now it does this through the voice, so the quality is a lot better. Let me show you a quick example and then I'm going to show you how easy this is to do. So I've got an example here. If I click on it, you'll see that I've got the full transcript of the story here. I can play the story by clicking on this button.
I used to run my own travel agency where I customized trips to London. I've now shut the agency down to focus on this very YouTube channel. So here are some things and travel tips that you...
Okay, so you can obviously just play the transcript back and follow. You can also search the transcript. So if I wanted to look for examples of the use of the word really within the transcript, and this can be really useful for language teaching because you can focus on language or phrases or verbs, then it will bring up all the examples from the transcript of that particular word. Now the other thing that it will do is translate the transcript. So if you want to switch the transcript into another language, and I've already done it in Polish, you can click here. You've got multiple languages. Click on the button. It will take a few minutes and it will also allow you to do that. One other thing I really like about working with the transcript is that I can highlight anything I find useful. So for example, let's say this sentence here, I want to copy it. I can just click and it will copy that extract, or let's say I want to copy this sentence here, it will copy it for me. I can also just play this one sentence by clicking on it.
I used to run my own travel agency where I
Okay, I can also mark it. I can bookmark that sentence. If I find this useful, I can just bookmark that. And obviously I can work through the transcript. Perhaps there's another sentence I want to bookmark and I can bookmark that. So that's some of the really basic stuff that you can do, which is very useful. Another feature I particularly like is that it will copy to the clipboard the whole of the transcript. Now you can actually export it, but if you want to perhaps copy it or something, then you can just click on this button here. It copies the whole of the transcript. You could paste that into a Word file so that you could provide the students with the transcript perhaps after listening to the YouTube video. But now I want to focus on perhaps the most compelling feature within this system. Remember, you can take any video from YouTube, and in fact from other video repositories as well, put it into this system and extract the whole of the transcript. But then you can generate content, and a lot of us like to use YouTube videos with our students, and then of course we want to create activities around those videos. For example, if we click on the AI button, we've actually got here ChatGPT, and we can get ChatGPT to generate all sorts of content for us. So in this example, I got it to make me a summary. I then asked to make some comprehension questions, and I could carry on now and say, can you create 8 true or false questions based on the transcript? And it will do this. Now the nice thing as well, of course, is that immediately generates this content. You can copy it, you can edit it, etc. To copy, just click on this button here and it makes a copy of that part, and then you can paste that into Word. So I find this really easy. For example, I could say to it, because it's already generated a summary for me, can you create a gap fill activity based on the summary? Can you take out 8 words and provide the answers? And hopefully, if I press on the enter button, it's going to create a gap fill activity, and there it goes, and it's even provided for me the answers as well. Look at that. Okay, so really useful, because then of course any of this content can be clipped on. So what I like about this, and I use this a lot in my own language learning, is that I can generate the transcript from any YouTube video and then build activities around it to use in class or to use for myself as a student. So if I click back on my files, you'll see that I'm actually using this a lot in Polish, which is the language that I'm currently studying, because it really helps me a lot. So this is a great tool to suggest to your students, as well as something you might find useful. You can use this every day for free for one video, and obviously build a whole lesson around that content. Now let me show you how simple it is to do this, and I'll also show you a couple of tricks in YouTube that you might not be aware of. So I'm going to search for a business meeting in English at intermediate level, okay, and let's just see what comes up. Now, when you get this content in YouTube, one thing you might not realize, and it doesn't matter if the video has a transcript or not, because Gaston extracts the transcript from the voice. But you can go over to these filters here and control a lot more the videos that you extract. So for example, if I don't want the video to be too long, I can choose videos that are between 4 and 20 minutes long, and it will limit the number of videos. I can also filter and say, well, I want content that's been generated only this year. So I've got really up-to-date videos. So you're able to do that. Now we've got a video here that's 7 minutes long. I'm going to use this particular one. I don't know this video particularly well, but we'll give it a test and just show you how easy it is from here to then copy the link. So copy the link at the top of the page, nothing else, copy, come over to Gaston. All you need to do is click on Add Media, paste in the link, and then click on Add. And what it will do is it will begin to extract from the voice the complete transcript. Now, another interesting thing when it comes to business meetings as well is that there is a feature that allows you to detect voices, and it will show you speaker 1, speaker 2, speaker 3, etc. if you are working with a video that has more than one speaker. So here is my video, all the content extracted from the transcript. Of course, I can play it. I can do all the things I showed you with the AI. I can have it translated. I can copy the whole thing. I can search for phrases within the transcript. Very useful for language learning. And of course, the one thing I didn't mention to you is that you can click on this button here and it will detect the speakers if you've got more than one speaker in the video. And that way it will show you who speaker 1 is and speaker 2. And that can also be very useful. Okay, 1 minute. Let me just jump on to the next slide. Okay, so I really like that technology. A lot of my teachers do. When I made that video on my YouTube channel, it got quite a few thousand plays very quickly. People commenting and saying, Russell, this is super useful because I use YouTube a lot. And you know, you've got a YouTube video, you can make it searchable, you can access a transcript, you can generate materials, you can highlight and focus on particular things, you can translate it, and that's all for free. Now, there are several of these tools around. I'm aware of them, but so far, the most impressive one that I've come across is Gaston, and I would highly recommend it. At the end of the presentation today, I'm going to give you a link where you can, you know, obviously learn more about Gaston if you want to try and use it. But that is probably at the moment the third most popular technology amongst all the people that follow me on Patreon. I'm going to move over now to a website that I kind of wasn't necessarily going to present this at the beginning. In fact, I wasn't even aware of this when we had the meeting to talk about the presentation. But the thing is, Google Gemini Storybooks has taken the internet by storm. And the brilliant thing about this technology is that it will generate a story for you with pictures up to 10 pages long. It includes the audio. All you need to do is to give it the instructions. Now, I really like storybooks because you can choose your theme. It will generate a story about a business meeting or a business scenario. And it can be, you can control the level, you can control the types of people in the picture. So you can ask for, you know, a nice multicultural mix of people if you want to create that kind of environment. It really is very powerful as a technology. And as soon as I started to make videos and to present this on my Patreon channel and on my YouTube channel, I released a video just 24 hours ago that's already had about 2,000 plays. I've had an incredible response. Now, interestingly, I'm using this as well for my daughter, because the brilliant thing about this technology is that I can include, when I make the story, I can say, make me a story about blah, blah, blah. I want the character to be Abigail, which is the name of my daughter, and her friend Melissa, or sorry, her friend Marisha. So I can even use characters or include the names of people from my class or whatever in the story. I'm going to show you this technology. For me, this is something that I can't put down since I found it. And the brilliant thing is that when it generates the story, you can then generate learning activities around it. So you can extract the vocabulary, you can extract the phrases, you can make comprehension questions. It's free, it's super easy to use. And as I said, the impact when I put this video up onto YouTube and from my Patreon users has been really, really, you know, very special. I'm going to show you this now. And this is a short video. I think this is, for a lot of people, this is a real wow factor. And I've been waiting for something like this for a long time. So it's free. Let me show you it. The reaction to Google Gemini Storybooks has been incredibly positive. Lots and lots of teachers are commenting how useful this is. I'm just going to scroll down, go to my Gemini, and when you go there, you'll see, if you just scroll up to the top, that you actually have a button called Storybooks. But you don't even need to do that. You can just say, write a storybook on blah, blah, blah. So I'm just going to quickly write in some instructions. So I've given it instructions to write a storybook about Russell's busy day at work. He had lots of meetings, reports to write, emails to reply to, calls to answer. He was so busy that he didn't have time to have lunch, and he didn't finish work until 6 p.m. Can you write the story for my business students of English who have an intermediate level? This could be in French or in another language. Can you include a range of people in the story from diverse cultures? So that's all I've done. I've written in the instructions. I'm going to click on this button here, and I'm hoping it's going to generate the story. The story's ready. I can click and just go through the story. We will be able to analyze the language in the story. But we can also listen to the story. Notice also that in the story, I can actually control to some degree the characters. So I've asked the story to be about me. So this can be really nice because you can do the story based around your students. I particularly like the fact that we can actually listen to the story as well. So let's move it back to the beginning, and we're going to click on the listen button and just see what it's like.
Russell's busy day. The alarm clock buzzed, and Russell groaned. Another busy day at, quote, Global Solutions, Inc. was about to begin. He quickly got ready, grabbed a coffee, and headed out the door, eager to tackle his tasks. His first meeting started promptly at 9 a.m.
Now I like this. It works around the language. It generates a story. It produces the pictures. I'm using this in Polish. I'm also using this to help my daughter because she's learning English. I can see lots of uses. You can print the stories out. You can actually share the stories as well. So you can actually share a storybook, okay? And it creates a link that allows you to share that storybook as well. That's another possibility. If you want to, there's also the option of, if we just close this down here, of extracting language from this story. So you could now use Google Gemini and ask for, say, 10 of the key words or 10 key phrases or some comprehension questions to go along with the story, true or false questions, a gap fill activity, a summary, etc. Let me just give you a couple of examples. So obviously this story is to practice the past tense, and so what I've asked for is a list of the verbs in the past tense from the story. One really nice thing to do with this obviously is to obviously watch the story, learn the story, and then get the students to actually retell the story. So very useful here. If I click here, I've got a list of all the verbs now. And another very important thing, of course, is that it's very easy, and perhaps it's quite a long list here because obviously I asked for a fairly high level content. I can click and copy. Now let's just try another example. Let's try to get it to generate some multiple choice questions for us. So I've asked for 8 multiple choice questions around the story to check my students' understanding. I'm going to click here and it's going to generate those questions. Now, anything that you generate using AI, look at it, check it, make sure you're happy with it. But I must say that I find this particular technology and the options and the fact that it's free really interesting. I'm using this extensively both in my own language teaching and also in the language teaching of my daughter. And one of the things that I really love is that I can make stories about my daughter and about her friends. And I think that really adds an extra dimension, as well as stories that have got a particular ending or a particular theme. Maybe it might be around trying hard or progressing or being disciplined and organized, etc. So I really like the versatility of this technology. Okay, I'm a massive fan of that. I want to emphasize, guys, the reactions to Google. 1 minute, just want to move on to the page. I just want to, just comment a little bit on storybooks. It's going to get better. Okay, so this is right at the beginning of that particular element that they've added into Google Gemini. This is the free account. I've generated content so far in Polish, Spanish, and in English. Absolutely brilliant. I found it very useful for me in Polish. And what I did in Polish, and you definitely want to play around with this, is that I gave it some vocabulary that I wanted to include. So I made the story based on some of the vocabulary that I was actually studying in Polish that I was struggling with, and I wanted to put it in the context of a story. So when you write the instructions, you can actually be quite explicit. I've been fairly impressed with the levels as well. I've noticed all of the large language models like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, etc. are getting better and better at identifying a level. So for example, when my level of Polish is around kind of pre-intermediate, intermediate level, we sometimes talk about kind of the SEFRA levels in England. We refer to these European framework of levels, but if I use words like intermediate, pre-intermediate, upper intermediate, advanced, it seems to understand it. But my level is between pre-intermediate and intermediate, and I'm really impressed that when I get it to generate a story for me, it is pretty good. In other words, yes, I've got to study some of the vocabulary. Yes, some of the phrases are going to be difficult, but it really is at that level of challenge that we want, at that kind of level where it's going, it's challenging us, but it's not impossible to do. So I really, Gaston, I said the first technology I've showed you, that's definitely one that a lot of the teachers on my Patreon, on my YouTube, my newsletter love. The storybooks is a very recent one that immediately that I showed it to my users on Patreon, the reaction was incredibly positive, and I've just recently put a video up onto YouTube about using this as well, and I think it's got a lot of potential. It's very interesting for me because at the moment I'm spending a lot of time, using these technologies for my own language learning. And it's so useful to think about these tools when we're using them, when we're working with them. It's worth showing some of these technologies to our students because, see, they could use them as well. They can generate stories for themselves. They can practice language outside of the classroom. They can use Gaston. Gaston is free. They can do it for a video a day. If they've got a particular interest, maybe it's in football, maybe it's in soccer, maybe it's in baseball, maybe it's in the arts, they can access videos in YouTube in English or in French and use Gaston to help them to follow the video. This is exactly what I'm doing in Polish. So I've got a particular interest in, for example, travel. And so I often watch travel videos in Polish that are quite tricky, but with the help of Gaston, then I could really make use of them. And again, the same thing about the storybooks as well in Google. Great opportunity for encouraging autonomous learning because it's so simple, because they're literally writing the prompt and the content is generated. Now, I mentioned autonomous learning, I mentioned preparation of content, and those two things we've kind of covered with those first two technologies. And of course, there are other technologies. At the end of the day, you've got to choose the ones you like. I will talk about my favorite ones at the end, but I want to talk a little bit about interaction. Now, I'm a big fan of the interaction between what happens in my lessons and what happens as homework. I first started teaching in 1987. For me, a big change with technology meant that suddenly I could make the homework way more interesting. I remember using books like Streamline Departures and early versions of Headway, and books that go right back to the 1980s. Michael Swan's Cambridge English books, for example. And the homework that I could set my students was really limited. I could get them to do a gap fill activity or maybe write a story or study some vocabulary, but I really couldn't make the homework that interesting. These days, that's one of the things that we can do. We can really make the homework very interesting. And I did actually quite a few pieces of research while working at university based around this link between the class session, the live session with the teacher, and what I'd set for homework, and getting my students to do things like record themselves speaking at home, or access a YouTube video and then do an interactive activity around it, or collaborate using a different technology. And there are lots of these technologies around that can help us to build this link. Now, the four that I've tended to focus on are WordWall, TWE and Padlet. They all allow for a certain amount of interactivity. I'm aware that you know about TWE. I'm presuming quite a lot of you will probably know about WordWall and Padlet. These are all excellent tools that have been around for a long time. But I want to introduce one that when I saw this technology right from the beginning, I thought, wow, this is really interesting. And I just want to talk about why before. It's called Ed Cafe. It again has a free version. Again, it's something that we really are using, both me as a language learner, but also many of my teachers in terms of their teaching and learning. And again, the feedback when I produced a video about this technology was incredibly positive. Is what I particularly like about Ed Cafe and why I think it shines out is the presentation of the material. It generates material very simply in multiple languages, but the way it presents it to the student is so professional. And I'm very impressed with the technology, and I want to take you through this one. I really am a big fan of this. It's simple, it's straight to the point, it's what we need, and it's got amazing formatting. And of course, really good news is there is a free option. Now, often when I work with these, not work with these companies, but if I, find a technology that I like, I do contact the company to find out a little bit about their background. And funny enough, with this technology, when I accessed it for the first time, I thought this must be either a very experienced company in the area of education technology, or it's been generated by teachers. Because I could just feel by the actual way that it was all generated that this had the right feel. It turns out that this company is based in Singapore, and they actually build something called ClassPoint, which I've never used, which I am familiar with. So this company does have a heritage of working in kind of education and language education particularly. I highly recommend it. And again, the great news is this is a free tool, and I'm going to show you some of the standout features. There are two that I absolutely love. One of them is that it will generate a YouTube quiz. You put in any video that you want to work with from YouTube, and it will generate a really professional looking quiz with quiz questions, which of course you can edit. Then you share the link and the students can then do the quiz. And the way the quiz is organized with the video on the left hand side and the content or the answers or the questions on the right is superb. It generally works better if your students are on a computer rather than using their smartphones, I must say, but that will be the case with many of these technologies, because obviously when you put something onto a smartphone, the screen size is very small. The other outstanding feature that I've been working with personally is the text feature, because it will generate a text about anything. It will generate the vocabulary and the audio and questions around that text. And it kind of does it very, very quickly. And again, you can share the link and get the students to do the activity, and it will track their responses, etc. Again, everything is editable. I'm not taking it for granted that everything in the AI is perfect. You might need to edit it, but I'm a big fan of this technology. And I'm going to take you for a very short video where I just highlight one of the features. Remember, at the end, I've got a handout, and in that handout are these videos, but slightly longer. So they give you more information about the three technologies that I've focused on. So let me show you Ed Cafe. And what I did is, because I do have a paid account with Ed Cafe now, is that I signed in and created a new account for myself. So you could see that this really does work in the free offer. And this is something that personally for me, you'll see what I mean in terms of the formatting. I'm a real big fan of Ed Cafe, and I do actually have a paid account, but I'm going to use a free account to just show you that you can actually use a free account. Obviously, it's more limited than the paid account. If I click on Create New, and there's a number of these that are particularly interesting, but the one I want to focus on today, just because I think it's so interesting for us, is this one here, reading activity. And I'm going to click here and I'm going to ask for a specific reading activity, and then I'm going to provide some additional instructions. So I've asked for a reading activity based around the UK economy. What are its strengths and weaknesses? Can you make this text for a student of upper intermediate English? My students are business English students. And I want it written in a report style. Again, I've just put the level here. And just to make the point, and again, this is a technology I'm using myself. This works in multiple languages. I'm going to click on generate the text, and it's going to generate that text for me fairly quickly. Now, straight away, once the text is generated, of course, you will be able to edit the text. I'm just going to scroll down here to below, and what I want to do is I'm just going to click on these three buttons. So I'm going to add the vocabulary, which it kind of does automatically, and it seems to do a really good job of pulling out the keywords from the text. I've actually found this very helpful for me in Polish. And again, I'm going to scroll down now and add a passage quiz. I can choose the type of quiz. and we've got 3 answers. I'm just going to go for multiple choice, and I'm going to limit it to just say 10 questions. Okay, generate passage quiz. Now this quiz will actually be interactive, and what I really like is that when it generates the quiz for the students to do the activity, when they do it, it gives them a very well, not detailed, but a good explanation of their answers. And you can see it's generating the explanations as well. I can add my own questions, and now I'm also going to add the audio. And we've got a number of different voices here. We'll stick with Stacey. Notice that we've got obviously voices that you need to pay for, but you get a fair number of free voices, and we're going to generate the audio. Now, I'm very aware that there are other technologies that do similar sorts of things, but I must say I've been particularly pleased with the results that have come from EdCafe. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on the save button just to save what we've done, and I'm just going to call this UK Economy and save that. Okay, and I've got various libraries that I can organize. I've just created an account for you today to make this. As I said, I have a paid account. Now look at this. This is really important. We can assign this activity immediately. We can edit it. We can go in and change anything. So we can click on the edit button and begin to edit any of the content if we're not happy. But what I want to do is I want to show you what happens if we assign it. So we click here and we get a QR code. But what we can also do is copy link. Now it will collect up to 40 responses for free. I'm going to click on copy link, and I'm actually going to show you what this activity would look like for the student, because I think it's there that you'll see why I'm so impressed. So I've already clicked on the link, so I'm going to paste in that content, and it's going to bring open a page for me where I could do this activity with my students. So we've got the text here, and we can listen and read the text. So we just click on this button and test it.
The United Kingdom's economy has long been considered one of the world's major financial hubs, displaying a complex mixture of strengths and weaknesses.
Okay, so we've got that. And if we scroll down underneath, we've got a list of vocabulary terms as well to help us to understand the text. And if we scroll down below, we've got a quiz. Now I'm going to write my name in. I'm just going to write Russell, and I'm going to do this quiz. Now obviously it needs a name, because that way the teacher will know who's done the quiz. Play quiz, and this is what I love. We get this layout here where we got the text on the left hand side, the audio to play, and we can answer the questions by just simply clicking. Okay, so I'm not obviously going to do that. I'm just going to go through the activity very quickly just to show you how good this is. Now, if you do the YouTube activity, it works in exactly the same way. The YouTube video will be here and the quiz questions will be on the right. I haven't yet found another one, in my opinion, that formats the content so well. If I submit now my answers, it will review the answers and give me a detailed explanation of my answers. And I didn't do very well. I only got 20%. And of course, all that information is sent back to the student, and then I get an explanation of every answer. And that's why I'm a big fan of EdCafe. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for a minute, guys, because you've sat through their 3 technologies. If you want to put your cameras back on, please do, because we're out of the presentation share. I'm going to, there's a little bit more yet, but hopefully, I think I'm right in saying, Melissa, that we're going to stop at 0:00. Is that right? Have I got that right? I have not. Yeah, is that right? 50 minutes? Yeah. Okay.
That's right.
So,
Yes,
good. I
that's
wanted
right.
to make sure there was time for some questions, and then I will jump back to the presentation to do a little bit of a summary. I just want to say it was a bit difficult for me to decide on the technologies that I showed you today, because there are a number of really interesting technologies around, but those were 3 that were particularly popular on my Patreon, on my YouTube, and on my newsletter. The teacher said, Russell, yeah, these are really, really useful. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a taster. I know that my job a little bit today is to kind of open up the presentation or open up the conference and get you kind of interested in these technologies and their possibilities. Has anyone got any questions that you want to ask me? Either put in the chat window or just turn on the mic and just fire away, and I'll try my best to answer them.
We do have one question in the Q&A. So
Right, okay.
Jennifer asked, can Gaston.live make an audio script from only an audio track?
Right, so I'm guessing, because I don't know the answer to that question, all right? I'm guessing the answer is yes, because knowing what I know about technology, it should be able to cope with that, okay? Because actually it's working with the audio from the YouTube video anyway. So I'm presuming, I know it does work in multiple devices and multiple video repositories. So in theory, it should be able to do that. But who asked that question? Was it Jennifer?
It was Jennifer,
Yeah.
yes.
Jennifer, if it doesn't work, there's another one, not as good, but also free, that is called, oh God. Oh God, I can't, it's gone from me now. Oh God, I'll have to, if it comes to me, there is another one. Jennifer, if you email me afterwards, I'll find the name of it. There is another transcribe. I think it's transcribe.com. I'll very quickly check in a minute when I just do the rest of the presentation. But I do believe that Gaston will be able to do that, because Gaston works in with multiple repositories, etc. So the answer is, I'm presuming that yes, it will be able to do it for you. Okay.
Perfect. We have another question from Isabel.
Yeah, please.
So Isabel is asking if these all this technology that you've shared with us, is it reliable in terms of, effectiveness, to be efficient, to be easy to use and to depend on? Because if you're going to spend some time trying to work these things, is it worth it?
I think they're really good questions. I mean, I try to select the technologies. I mean, you can't imagine. Who asked that question, Melissa?
Isabel,
you can't imagine how much time I spend working. I have various connections and feeds. Okay, so I'm literally analyzing on a daily basis, checking out all these technologies and looking. And most of them, I'm going to be honest with you, most of them I'm very disappointed with. So when I'm picking out these technologies that I'm showing you, these are the ones that I have selected from, I might be reviewing 2 or 3 technologies a day, because there are that many being released at the moment, right? And then every so often something comes along like Gaston, or something comes along like Ed Cafe. But there's not a whole mass of these technologies that I personally think are really worth looking into. And there's a really important point to be made alongside that. So I have selected the ones that my teachers on my Patreon, YouTube and newsletter said, Russell, these are really useful. Okay. So yes, the answer is yes. I do believe these tools to be reliable. They've been fantastic for me. I'm learning one of the most difficult languages to learn, which is Polish, incredibly complicated language. I can't believe how much these technologies have helped me and my teachers. I said, a huge number of teachers. But honestly, I'm selecting from a big pool. Because I, have access to a lot of stuff. So these are super selected technologies that I really believe, these ones are working because we're using them, and I'm getting continual feedback from my students. It's a really good question, and of course I have to underline that by saying you never know. Okay, so in other words, what I mean by that is, some of these companies will go bankrupt. I've hoped, and so the technology will disappear. It's happened to us all. It happened to you. If ever you were using Edmodo, for example, then you'll be aware of the fact that that's happened in the past. But to the best of my knowledge and from everything that I'm doing, I've tried to pick out 3 tools that, as a language learner and as a language teacher for over 30 years, I really think are worth looking into. Lovely question.
Perfect. Well, I have a follow-up because Isabel really meant in terms of, because we know sometimes that AI has not a tendency, but it has been known to hallucinate and give facts that maybe need to be fact-checked. So the tools that you've shown us, are they reliable in terms of their sources, where they get the facts? You were talking about economics before. Is that something that we can rely on?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good question. I can't 100% vouch for that, okay? These technologies like, for example, Ed Cafe, etc., will be built on to, obviously what tool, I don't know if you're aware of how technologies work really, but basically, Ed Cafe will be accessing ChatGPT, pulling the information from ChatGPT and then pulling it down and formatting it and organizing it and turning it into an interactive activity. So Ed Cafe are probably, they're connected into a large language model to generate that content. That's how these large language models make their money. So as the large language models get better and better, so do all the apps that are associated with them. So we've seen a massive increase in the quality of the technologies in terms of what they're generating. But I do agree, it's always worth checking. It's always worth looking at. I'm afraid, and it will never get to the stage, I think. I don't know what may happen in the future, but at the moment where that's going to ever be not the case, that you will always need to check everything. You will, these things are a massive help. They really are a massive help. But of course, they're not the be all and end all. And I will, at the end of my talk, when I just jump back into that, I've got one really important screen to talk about that's kind of connected to that excellent question. So never totally rely on them. Always kind of double check. If you're not doing anything factual, like for example, when I generated that story about me in the office, you're going to be pretty reliable that it's going to be a very good story, blah, blah, blah. But I agree with you, Melissa, when it comes to using data and information from the past, well worth checking. Though I must say, in defense of many of these large language models, they are getting better and better. Lovely question.
Perfect. I have a couple more, if you don't mind. So can the speed of audio be decreased with Gaston and Ed Cafe?
I do believe it can. So yes, you can slow down the speed of delivery. And in fact, lovely question, whoever said that question, I actually do that in Polish because I'm really want to emphasize, why do I love Gaston so much? Because see, I'm a huge fan of trying to use native content. Now I'm not, my Polish is getting there, but it's a big struggle. Okay, so I'm listening to material that's well above my level often. So I'm using Gaston to help me because I can get the transcript, check the vocabulary, choose the phrases that I need to learn, but plus I can slow the delivery of the audio down and listen to it at a bit of slower speed or keep repeating the same phrase. Also, another really useful thing, especially when you're trying to learn like words like przymiarki in Polish, you really need that practice. So yes, they do. They control the delivery speed.
Perfect. I got two more. I'll be very quick. With Ed Cafe, can you modify the text after it's been created? And will the audio be updated as well?
Yes, it will be. Yes, the answer is yes. But you do need to save it first. It's kind of weird the way it works. You have to kind of save it and then edit it, and then you have to resave it again, and it will regenerate all the content for you. Okay.
Perfect.
It does. Yeah. And I think it is one thing that I'm going to kind of email them about and saying, listen, you're doing that backwards. You should be able to edit it first, and then once it's all done, save it. Yeah.
Right.
As I say, I do try to contact these companies if I'm working with their technologies, just to find out a little bit more about them.
Perfect. And you mentioned there was Twee in one of your slides. We currently use Twee. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it's a great technology. I think it's really good. I think it's right up there again. It's a company that I've been in contact with. I was kind of tipped off about Twee right from the beginning. This often happens. The companies know who I am and they'll contact me. And so I had an early account. And just like some of these other technologies, it's getting better and better and better. And I do like Twee, so I'm definitely encouraging people to make use of it. I think it works pretty well. And again, it's improving and getting better and better because the large language model that Twee is connected to is getting better and better, very much like Ed Cafe. What I like about Ed Cafe is the formatting and layout and the simplicity of it, okay? And a lot of my training is with people like myself. I'm 60 years old and, where people like me are often a bit technophobic. We weren't born with technology, not like my daughter who's only 3 and can seem to use a tablet already. And so, I'm very much, tools that I find very easy to use, I find particularly interesting.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Now you can go ahead. We're done with the questions.
Lovely.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. All right, guys. Lovely, great questions. I'm just going to go back to a last couple of things. I just want to very, very quickly, because I want to finish on time. I know you've got lots coming up. And so I'm just going to jump back in, just going to make sure I include the sound and So let me just click on that one. And then hopefully we're going to come back in. Right. OK, lovely. So just click back onto here. I just want to point out a couple of things. So I've been working in ed technology for 25 years. Okay, and I teach on 2 master's degree programs. I never did a PhD. I pulled out of it, but I've written quite a few research papers, blah, 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 blah. These are the only technologies I'm using in my language teaching. I just want to make the point. You've got to choose your poison. You've got to choose the ones that you like, but I'm not someone who's using hundreds and hundreds of technologies. These are the technologies that I use. These are the technologies that I train on my master's courses, etc. And bit by bit, I've got familiar with these tools. And what I tended to do is learn them really well. So I know a lot about YouTube, and I can often do a presentation about YouTube where people who tell me that they know YouTube say, wow, I never realized that. Or the same will happen with Padlet. Padlet is an incredible technology, but again, it's one where, and if you don't spend the time. So my message to you is choose the technologies you like. Choose the ones you like and learn them well. Get confident with them. And there's a key reason for this, okay? And that is the creativity comes, guys, when you're confident with the technology, okay? The creativity that is really using these technologies in a creative way comes when you keep practicing and using them. So you've worked out the technologies that you like personally, and you work with them and you try them out, and then you think, oh, I'm going to try this or I'm going to try that. I've had some huge success, which I won't go into today, but some huge success because I've done that, okay? And then sometimes in my YouTube videos that I put out, and they're all free, I give examples of, look, I'm going to show you, I've been working with the technology now for 3 months. I've really worked out some interesting things. Try it out. So I think you've got to choose your poison. You've got to choose the technologies that you like, that fit with your teaching style, and those are the ones that you really want to dig into, because I think that's when you get really powerful with these technologies and start to use them very well. And I'm starting to feel that, for example, with the use of images and the fact that we can now generate lots of images with Google Gemini, for example. I've done all sorts of things, and in fact I did a presentation here in Poland on Saturday precisely about that. So choose your technologies, use them, experiment with them. Don't learn loads. Don't, just ignore them. You've got the ones that you like, that's fine. Work around those, get creative, and that's when you'll really be able to impact on your students' teaching and learning, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, making our teaching and learning more effective and using AI to support us. I'm going to give you a QR code, guys. If you access that QR code, and I will also give you the link, because I realize it's probably just as easy to give you the link today. Let me see if I can just do that. But what that is a handout, and I'll show you what it is, which is the last slide, where I've got a video about using EdCafe from my YouTube video. I put in a bonus one about Google Gemini, okay, which gives you a few examples of using it creatively. One about Gaston, and then this one hot off the press one about storybooks in Gemini, okay? So in other words, if you access this link and you decide, oh, I want to know more about EdCafe, or I want to know more about Google Gemini, you can just click and watch the video that you saw today, plus a bit more. Also, if anyone wants to join me on my newsletter, there are no tricks. I make my money completely different ways. I put out for you a video every week of any new technology that I've come across. I always choose the easy peasy lemon squeezy technologies. And also there's like a free mini course at the beginning. If you sign up to the newsletter, if you decided you would, you'll get like a free mini course of like some of the key technologies that I'm using in my teaching and learning. And it's basically that list that I showed you. I'm going to say a huge great thanks, and I'm done really well because I've got 2 minutes. It's going to give me time to copy the link from that Padlet so that you can access that in case you haven't got the QR code, because you need to, with the QR code, you will need obviously to point your phone at the screen now to grab that. So what I'll do is I will grab the link. So I'm just going to say a huge thanks to ELAM for inviting me along. I was very excited to do this presentation. I've never been to Canada. I've traveled to 55 countries of the world. One day I hope to get there. I really hope that that was useful for you guys. And thanks for listening, and good luck with the rest of the presentation today. I'm going to stop sharing, share that one link with you, okay, if I can, very, very quickly. Hopefully I've got it on my screen, just because it might be much easier to, let me just click on Padlet and see if I can grab it. oneweekpadlet.com. Just quickly grab you the link, and then hopefully I can, there I have got it. Good. Share the handout. I'm going to click on the share button. This time I'll choose link. This might be a lot easier for most of you. Okay, I've copied the link, come back to the presentation. I'm going to go to the chat window. I'm going to paste in that link, guys. Hopefully, oh, I don't know if I can do this. It doesn't seem like the link is activated.
The chat is deactivated. If you want, we can just put it in the Q&A.
Ah, right.
Put
Let's
it in the
click on the
Q&A if you want.
Okay,
Yes.
right. Let's have a look at there. See if I can do that then. The chat's deactivated. Right. Okay. Here we go. Ask a question. Let's paste it in there. Okay, and then ask. There it is, guys. Thanks ever so much. Good luck with the conference, and thank you. And I finished on time, right on time, so I'm quite happy about that.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Russell. It's been so inspiring and enlightening, and I am convinced everyone here is excited to just leave and go use these tools right away. We have lots more questions. Can you let us know where we can find you? We can find you on YouTube, Patreon, LinkedIn. Is there anywhere else that we can find you at?
No, I mean, obviously teachertrainingvideos.com is my website. But if you clicked on that link and you accessed any of those videos, that will take you to my YouTube channel. And as I said, every week I put out a new video on YouTube, more often, you know, the same technology, but showing you more ideas. So if anyone's got any really pertinent questions, please, no problem at all. Just email me at russellstannard@gmail.com. No problem. I'm quite happy to answer any questions. All right.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for your generosity. It was amazing to have you as our first ever guest speaker. Thank you so much, Russell.
Lovely. Thank you. Real privilege. Thank you.
Et maintenant, on va switcher en français parce que notre prochain présentateur est non seulement un formateur accompli,